Historic Forestville is the remnants of a village settled early in the 1850s. Forestville was a thriving trade center early on, and as time went by, our village basically died out. Historic Forestville is located within Forestville State Park. The state park was created initially with the land that the state purchased from the Meehan descendants. The Minnesota Historical Society administers the 18 acres that the historic site sits on. We have a first-person living history experience where on your tour of Historic Forestville, you will meet several costume interpreters that are portraying the residents of Forestville. You don't, it doesn't turn into a blazer tour where you just come in, this is their parlor, this is this. And I guess I'm a firm believer in living history because I think people better learn by seeing, smelling, touching, doing, than just having, a talking head talk to them. There's no engagement if you just go on your own and wander through. We'd have to have a lot of text on the walls for everybody just to read on their own. I think that living history, I think people enjoy it. I mean, not everyone would like this format, I'm sure, but I think the visitors that come here really, really enjoy the first-person living history aspect of our program.
And they enjoy that pretty much. So what we do is first-person interpretation so that when you come through here as a visitor, once you're oriented, you cross the road and you actually go back in time to 1899. And if you talk about things like televisions or computers, we're just going to shrug our shoulders. We don't know what you're talking about. Although sometimes children are surprised what we do know about. They don't think we know what cars are. We know what cars are. There was maybe a dozen in Minnesota. We think there were 5 to 7 in both Winona and Rochester at this time. There were steam-powered tractors, but not here. There were no airplanes, maybe a dozen years. We think that gives a much more complete experience and takes advantage of what we have. And what we have is a lot of information about the people who lived here, a lot of actual artifacts and equipment, and a lot of records that were kept. So we're able to give a fairly accurate depiction of that. And if people are willing to play along, which most are, we really feel that it enhances their experience, and it takes advantage of what we have, and it stretches our limitations of what we don't have.
The tour takes about an hour to go through, and you visit with all of these different costume interpreters. You'll visit the general store, which houses probably 85% of the merchandise that's in the general store today is from the turn of the century. You'll go into the Meehan residence, where you'll visit with other costume interpreters, and you will go into Thomas Meehan's kitchen and all the outbuildings.
Well, this is the general store. This store was built in 1857. It is connected to the Meehan home. When you go in the store, you would see a little bit of everything. You would see veterinary supplies, school supplies for the children. You would see clothing, shoes, hats in the back, farm supplies, tobacco for the gentlemen, material for the ladies. You would not find many ready-made clothing for the ladies. Most of the ladies in Forestville made their own clothing, but some ready-made clothing for the gentlemen. Well, this is Dr. Scott's magnetic hairbrush. Now each one is sold with a compass, and the point of that is to prove that that magnet inside the brush is very powerful. So if I just pass the brush over the magnet, you see the needle is moving. But it suggests on the back of the box you might want to get your mind as passive as possible. I suggest perhaps go sit down by the river. And it even suggests if you have a particularly bad headache, you might want to sit in a chair and let someone else brush your hair for you. But you start from the forehead, go back to the spine, and just keep brushing. And within a short amount of time, that powerful magnet will just pull all the tension out of your head, and your headache should be gone.
Well, we'll just head on into the kitchen, and Martha and Janie, we have a gentleman here that would love to have some of your apple pie. I play the part of Mary Meehan, the lady of the house. Mary Meehan is a city girl. She got married a little late in life at age 26, and she married a very prominent man, 12 years her senior. Thomas Meehan is what this whole place is about. So she left the big city of Preston and moved out here to the middle of nowhere into Forestville. As you know, no railroad, no electricity, no modern conveniences that she had in the big city. And well, here she stays for 8 years. Well, we use these apples that we have on hand, and luckily we have one of these newfangled apple peelers here. And my goodness, you can peel an apple in 3 seconds, and that sure takes a lot of time off of baking all these pies.
Well, we're usually in first-person interpretation, so we get to portray, you know, our characters, and I ask them how they're doing, where they're from. Oh, occasionally you get into politics, sometimes at least with the gentlemen, because at the time the women didn't have the right to vote, so it kind of tells people what likely were conversations back then, typical conversations with strangers, whether it's politics or farming. So that always tends to interest people a little more, it seems, but I do show them a lot of the authentic pieces in here. Some of it's reproduction, some of it's authentic. But I tell it like we're using it, like the barrels have linseed oil in them. We sell it for 10 cents a gallon in the store. We utilize there's a shaving horse in there that's nice to display. You get to sit on it and carve out what would be wagon spokes or legs for furniture. So people seeing you actually using the tools instead of just looking at them on a wall, it kind of, I think, brings out a different type of learning that people can utilize. So.
Forestville and its program that we have here at Historic Forestville gives visitors a slice of very accurate 1899 turn-of-the-century history so that they can visit and see firsthand where people really lived, what they really did.
Those people, again, that built this town in the early days pre-statehood, those people that were the very first Minnesotans on May 11th of 1858 and likely celebrated with cannons and a big salute, are now buried, those first Minnesotans up the hill at Zumbro Hill Cemetery. Those people lying in state up there came out here in a wagon. They came out here in a covered wagon. And this is a very rare site that needs to be protected and shared.